Hey y'all, it's Jermise from 513 Designs, and today we're going to talk about failure. Not the cute kind, not the kind that makes for a look how beautiful this turned out, look at all of this came together kind of moment. It's the kind that humbles you, the kind that makes you cry, the kind that makes you walk away from your sewing table and question everything that you thought you knew. Guys, this was me last weekend, and this is the corset that caused it. This video is about the one I didn't finish. The one I poured my heart, my time, and my fabric into and still couldn't make it work. But I'm sharing it because I know I'm not the only one who's ever failed at something they really cared about. So let's get into it. This all started from an idea for this homecoming dress for my daughter. She gave me this inspiration. She had this sparkle in her eye when she showed me what she wanted. It was different. It was elegant. It had shimmer. To know her is to understand that this had to be a special dress because she's more of a tomboy than anything. I can count the times that she's worn a dress on one hand. I was proud that she trusted me with her vision. This corset style top with cups and beaded fabric and all of this pretty structure and flow. The moment that she described it, I knew it was going to be one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I told myself, Jermise, you've done this before. You've made structured garments before. You've made a prom suit. You've handled tailored garments, boning, interfacing. You can figure this out. I reminded myself that this may be a different kind of corset, but the first corset I've ever made was for her 8th grade dance, and it came out beautifully. But what I didn't realize is how much engineering goes into making a true corset. Not just something that looks good, but something that is also functional. Before I even started sewing, the first challenge came up in getting the pattern. Now, you guys know with Joann's clothes, it's not about running to the store to buy a quick pattern anymore. I had to look and research what the best pattern to use. I actually wanted to use the Glow High corset pattern. It's designed specifically for transparent corsets, the kind from strong corset mesh that keeps its shape. But when I downloaded the file, the PDF just wouldn't open. It wouldn't load, it wouldn't extract, and with the clock ticking, I didn't have time to troubleshoot, y'all. I didn't have time to send an email and wait for somebody to get back to me. So I searched again. I came up with this mood fabric pattern called the Parker pattern. It was free, it had the breast cups, and honestly, it looked like something I could easily manage. So I thought, okay, this should work. What I didn't realize at the time, I just switched from a functional corset to a fashion corset, and I had no idea at the time it was a difference. A fashion corset is built for looks. It's about the shape, the style, the aesthetic. It's really not meant for carrying tension or mold to the body. In fashion corsets, they use lighter fabric and fewer boning channels. But a functional corset, that's a whole different world. It is built to support and shape the body. It's about the structure. It's layers of cortile or twill or reinforced mesh. It needs still boning, waist tape, and seams that can hold the tension. What I didn't realize at the time, I'm going to take this fashion pattern, this pattern that has the breast cups and beaded sequence fabric, all the fabrics that move and stretch to create this look. It was definitely the perfect storm. I was trying to make a delicate pattern do a heavy duty job, and I didn't even realize it yet. That's the problem. At this point, the things I wish I knew then that I definitely know now. So once I got the Parker pattern ready, I was excited. I thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to make a beaded corset with cups, and it's going to be beautiful. I used my Inkscape, create the pattern, and I was ready to go. I cut everything out. I treated my beaded fabric with corset mesh as one layer, and then I started sewing. It didn't take long before I started to realize that things were not behaving the way I expected them to. So, with you, I want to walk through some of the biggest mistakes I made because each one taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Mistake number one, I treated the fabric like it had structure. It didn't. The corset mesh and the beaded fabric overlay looked strong together, but they were still too soft to hold the tension. Corset mesh might look tough, but it's not meant to carry the weight of a corset by itself. It needs help. Without the help, my seams started to fold with the pressure of the boning. And this is why my bodice couldn't hold its shape once the cups was in. This is what I should have done. And this is definitely what I'll do next time. One, I'm going to double up on the corset mesh or back it up with something stable like organza or cretel just in the breast and waist area. This gives you strength without losing the transparency. Mistake number two, I didn't realize that I needed to stabilize my cups more. The cups were beautiful, but they were soft. And once that boning started to pull, they started to warp. The corset needed more than just stitching together to hold their shape. They needed structure underneath. They needed something to anchor them so that they didn't collapse or twist. Next time, I'll either add cotton twill or just under the lining of the cup, or I'm going to double up the mesh and add tape reinforcements along the underbust seam. It is one of those things that seems so minor, but you started to see the strain these curves take, and my corset was never the same. Mistake number three, I had a fabric that fought me every step of the way. I love the sparkle, but beaded fabric does not love you back. Beads break needles, they shift things, they mess with the tension in your pressure foot. Even when you're careful, it can stretch and shift just enough to ruin the alignment. What I learned, if you're using heavily beaded fabric, remove the beads from the seam allowance before sewing. This will save your sanctity and your machine. Also, base that layer by hand or by your machine to be able to sandwich your mesh and your beaded layer together. Otherwise, it's going to slide and cause small ripples that you can't fix later. See how the corset is away from the body? That's because I was pulling it, trying to make the corset work. And the more tension I put on those boning channels, the more the fabric started to shift, and those little ripples became bigger and bigger, and I couldn't go back to fix it. Mistake number four, boning wasn't right for the job. I used Rigoline boning, which is lightweight and great for costume style corsets or just corsets that's going to have light tension, but it's not made to handle heavy tension or molded cups. It bends fine, but it also warps and it doesn't snap back cleanly. For this kind of corset, especially one with shape and weight, I needed steel boning. Flat back steel boning for those back edges and spiral steel for those curved seams. It's one of the upgrades that I know is going to make a difference. Mistake number five, I underestimated the timeline and my stress showed it. I gave myself 1 week. 1 week to cut, sew, fit, and finish a beaded cup structured corset. That's just not ambitious. That is asking for burnout. By the end, I was mentally, emotionally, and physically drained. I wasn't trying to be creative anymore. I was just trying to survive it. I literally stayed up for 48 hours trying to finish this corset. Guys, this is when I stopped recording. I didn't want anyone to see the mess I was making. But looking back, I wish I had, because it's a lesson. Now I know some projects You don't need just skill, you need time, patience, and grace. I made a lot of mistakes doing this project, but each one has taught me something that I couldn't have learned from a tutorial. This corset didn't turn out, but it trained me. It showed me where my gaps were, and now I know exactly how I can grow to be a better sewer. So, guys, at this point, I was tired, not just physically, but emotionally. I spent nights at this table trying to get the right fit, fighting fabric that didn't want to cooperate, redoing seams that just didn't lay the way that I imagined it. And at some point, every maker hits that point in their project where they stop feeling creative and start feeling heavy. And that's exactly where I was. I poured so much into this corset, not just time, but hope. This wasn't just a dress to me. It wasn't just another project. It wasn't something that I can put on the back burner of the projects I wish I finished. This was for my daughter. She's a freshman in high school, so it was her first homecoming. And I wanted her to walk in that dance wearing something that was made just for her, that made her feel confident and special, something I made with my own hands. So when I realized I wasn't going to finish it, I cried. And not just a normal cry, I'm talking about those ugly cries. Y'all know the ones where you're snotting and tears is everywhere. I was so disappointed in myself for not finishing. I felt so ashamed because I posted this all over my Facebook and all over my social media. I told people I was going to make this big, beautiful dress. And guys, guess what? I couldn't deliver. And I know it sounds silly, but most importantly, I felt I let her down. This was her vision. This was her dream. And I didn't get it done. I remember sitting there surrounded by fabric, threads everywhere, sequins and beads all over the floor. And I started realizing that I wasn't going to get this done, that I couldn't do this. Then I had another thought. I'm still a mom. I still had a kid who needed me to show up whether the dress was finished or not. So I pulled myself together, wiped my tears, and we went to Ross. We found her the cutest dress that fit her perfectly. She got her hair and her makeup done, and when she finished getting dressed and she smiled, it hit me. She wasn't disappointed. She was excited and she felt beautiful. And that's when I realized that maybe I was the one who felt like I was a failure. She just wanted to go. She wanted to have fun with her friends. And that's exactly what she did. She had a blast and she looked beautiful doing it. So, what do we do now? That night, while she was at the dance, my husband stayed on that side of town so he can go pick her up. I put the two small kids to bed and I laid down and I told myself I was going to take a quick nap because I was exhausted, but I wanted to be home when she got home so I can see how her night went. And while I was laying there, I heard my husband's voice in my head, and it was the same words he told me very early that morning. Is there something you can do? At first, I brushed it off. I was too tired, too frustrated, too done. But the more I thought about it, the more and more I shifted, the more and more it shifted something in me. There was something I can do. I can go back. I can look at what went wrong. I can figure it out and I can try again. I can rebuild. Just because I didn't finish didn't mean I failed. It just means I learned something. And that's what I want people to know. Especially anyone who's learning something new or chasing after a dream, and especially my creators out there, that failure doesn't mean you're not talented. It just means that you're still in the middle of your story. You're still writing it out. You're still figuring it out. And failure teaches you the lessons you need to learn. We all love that after pictures look, right? I know so many times on social media, we only want to show our best. Even in the failure videos, there's power in the almost. There's a grace of showing up when everything didn't go as planned. Because one day you'll try again and it'll click. So Once the emotion settled, after the crying, the frustration, being exhausted, I realized this corset wasn't just about testing my skills. It tested me. It made me face the side of creativity that doesn't get talked about a lot. The part where you pour yourself into something and it still doesn't work. Where effort doesn't equal results and love of something doesn't equal perfection. I learned that creativity is not about control. It's about surrendering to the process, surrendering to your growth. You can measure and press and plan and still have to realize the outcome may not be what you wanted, because some lessons are only taught by letting go. I learned that I tied a lot of my worth to what I produce. When something doesn't turn out, I question myself. It's not just about the project. I question my skills, abilities, gifts, talents, but it reminded me that my value isn't in what I finish. It's in my willingness to try, to show up, to keep building, to move forward even when it's hard. I learned that sometimes being a mom and being a maker is going to collide, and that's going to be okay. There's a version of me that wants every stitch perfect, and another one that wants my Jenna to feel loved and seen. And that night reminded me which one mattered the most. And maybe the biggest thing this corset could have taught me is that failure is not final. It's about refining, right? It's about being compassionate towards the next maker who's sitting at her sewing machine, crying over a fabric, wondering if she's enough. Because I know how that feels. This project didn't give me the perfect finished garment. It gave me perspective, taught me patience, and it gave me a reason to try again with a softer heart, with steadier hands, and a lot more grace for myself. So, when I first started this dress, I thought the story would be that I went through the process, finished this dress, had this big reveal of my daughter. You're gonna see her twirling in the dress, this corset that I made, and this gown is gorgeous, and you guys will look at me and say, this is what I did. But that's not the story. In the end, there were some more real lessons to learn, some tears to cry, and a quiet reminder that failure doesn't mean it's the end. It means starting again, wiser, a little smarter. The corset didn't turn out how I planned, but it taught me so much more than a success story probably would have. It reminded me that creativity is not about perfection, it's about perseverance. And you gotta let go sometimes and just trust the process. I'm gonna trust the process. I'm not done. I'm going back to the beginning, back to the foundation, and take the lessons I learned. I'm gonna rebuild and try again. I've already started working towards the pattern. This time I'm going to use the Glow High pattern. I got it to work. It's also made for transparent corsets. This time I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush. I'm going to spend time building layer by layer. This kind of corset is meant to. Not rush, not under pressure, but just me, my fabric, everything I learned, and my sewing machine. Let me know if you ever had a project that fell apart, if you cried over fabric, questioned your skills, or just wanted to give up. Please hear me when I say this. You can try again. You don't have to have all of it figured out at this moment. And you don't have to hide your failures. There's beauty in the process, even when it's messy. I'm giving myself permission to start over. And if you needed to give yourself that permission, this is your sign. We're still learning, we're still building, and that makes all of it worth it. So guys, stay tuned for round 2. I'm gonna try again that Glow High corset is not defeat me, and this time I'm gonna get it right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of my crazy journey, and thank you for showing up. If this video encouraged you, give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. One stitch, one lesson, one redo at a time. Bye, guys.